here. Hopefully Dr. Greif can get his video sorted out there, but these are the days that we live in with some technical challenges. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It looks like we have a pretty great turnout with the amount of participants that we're having here. So welcome back to another episode of RCCSS Chats. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
So the ground rules are the same as our previous chats. It's a live session and we're recording this on Zoom with the goal of uploading it to YouTube and other social media platforms in the future. So if you have any questions, just write them in the chat box and I'll act as the moderator as they come up. And hopefully we can just integrate those into our chat today.
Okay, so this chat's going to be a little different than some of the previous ones where we've only had one guest on with us. Tonight we have multiple guests talking about the RCCSS research initiatives. So joining us this evening, we have Dr. Alex Lee, the chair of the Research and Education Committee, Dr. David Greif, interim president of the foundation, as well as the 2020 Research Award winners, Dr. Alexandre Deschamps, Dr. Melissa Belchos, Arif Karmali, MacDonald, and Trevor Vander Doelen to talk about their award-winning research. So starting off tonight, Alex, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think this is great what you guys are doing, and just happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with you tonight because this is an area that has grown so much in my short time with the RCCSS.
Yeah, you know, we want to keep things moving forward, so I'm happy to talk about all the things that we're doing.
Yeah, so you've been the research guy here for as long as I've known, and you've made some pretty big steps for the organization. So just kind of take me from where you started and then to where we're heading towards these days.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, when I think about it, there are so many things that started small and that have just built and gradually summated and built upon one another to allow us to do what we're doing now. I remember when I first was in the role, we just started the RCCSS research grants, so the $1,000 grants. I remember when I first joined the Research and Education Committee, just as a member, we created the first RCCSS research grant, and there was one applicant, right? So, you know, we had to start somewhere. But I have to say, you know, the vision of starting a grant has really just has taken off and has allowed us to build into lots of things. And when I was taking over the role, I remember the board was asking about, you know, how do we build a research agenda? And so I sat down and thought about that quite a bit and did a little bit of research, and then we started crafting a plan. And so we started with just an exploratory study on that topic, and that allowed us to get our feet wet on that, and it built a bit of a platform for us to continue to go down that path. Then we ran a qualitative study, which we won one of the research grants. And it was only $1,000, right? There's only so much you can do with that. But having that $1,000 allowed us to have a bit of a track record and apply for some funding from CMCC for their internal research support fund. And it's so different when you apply for some money coming with a little bit of money, and they really, any granting agency really likes to see that, and because of that, we won about $5,000 from CMCC. So the combined was like $6,000, and we were able to hire some research assistant help for the quality study. So all the money went to that, and to buy some software to allow us to do that. But because of that, we were able to hire Melissa Belchos. She's going to be talking today. She's now a research award winner. So talk about building capacity. And Katie Szabo, who just got accepted into the external RCCSS SSRP, again, research building capacity. And we're able to now that with that money, we're able to buy some software, and we can actually do qualitative research now for the RCCSS, which we didn't have access to before. We actually took that to the WFC, and we presented that there, and we submitted that for publication just last year. And because of that, we built our Delphi study. So our Delphi study, thanks to those who have been participants, we are finishing our third voting round tomorrow. It closes actually tonight, so I guess tomorrow. And this will define the first ever sports chiropractic research agenda here in Canada. And we were able to win one of the foundation research grants. With that, we were able to apply for some funding from CMCC again, because we came with some money. And because of that project, now Melissa is running a Delphi study internationally for FIX. So she's taking our work and expanding on it and applying it to a wider audience. And now we've collaborated with FIX. We're working with Stephen Pearl from University of Bridgeport, Katie DeLuca from Macquarie University, and that never would have happened since then. We're also running an interesting study where we're quantifying the productivity and the resources that we have to do research. So we've run a research monitoring study, which Ryan Debuchet is on the call here with Brad Meir and Jen Thompson, and we've won a little bit of money from that as well, and that'll tell us what we can do, and after we build the research agenda, what have we achieved. We've also running a study. Evan Eindhoven has finished his data collection. He's writing the manuscript on the first ever qualitative study of the sports chiropractic patient. So what do our patients say about us? Are they happy with what we do? What do they expect from care? So we just had a research meeting today talking about the manuscript, and there's some really interesting work there. And all of this wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that first $1,000, right? And because of all this, we've been able to build a program and a track record. And just last week, there was a bunch of us, Dr. Kazemi, myself, Krista Graw, Scott Howitt, Brad Meir. We're collaborating with Peter Stillwell, Katie DeLuca again, Scott Howitt, Clint Cashman, all of us. Sheila Hogg Johnson from CMCC, we just submitted a grant to the CCRF, and hopefully we're successful. And I'm really excited about this, is to build the first ever sports chiropractic practice-based research network, which
Amazing.
is pretty huge. And what's really interesting about this, I have been doing a lot of research, and I've only found one other practice-based research network in sports healthcare. And there's an athletic therapy practice-based research network in the US, and they're really productive. But that's it. So our practice-based research network will be the second one in sports healthcare. And just to give you a bit of an idea of how, the impact of a practice-based research network, it's a network of offices and community practices running research projects, and you can actually do multi-site studies. The Australian Chiropractic Research Network, the ACORN Research Network, they are so productive. And in 2015, they started, and they've published like 15 articles, and it's crazy what they're doing. And if we could do some of that stuff, that would be huge.
Yeah, that practice-based research network is going to be amazing. Hopefully we can get all those ducks in a row to get that accomplished, because I think that's one of the huge steps for our organization, in that our residents are producing some great research, and then we get to that point where it's like, okay, I've done that work and I have other ambitions as a practitioner to move forwards, but you still want to be, myself included, contributing towards some of that research, but maybe not taking on that huge role. But as a summative amount, we can really accomplish a lot.
Yeah, and you know what, that's a challenge. If you're not working in an academic institution, where doing research is either part of your role or tied to career advancement and stuff like that. How do you run a study by yourself as a primary author? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort. You're busy in practice, but there's tons of people who still want to contribute, and that's the perfect way, right? And you could jump in and perhaps be a co-author, right, on a project, or help collect some data, and that's a huge way of collaborating. And you don't have to be the primary author, right? Like that. You don't have to do that, because that's a lot of work. And it's really beneficial for those who work in an academic center. But there's great opportunity to engage with lots of people and contribute to research and get published as well, without having to be the primary author. So that's the beauty of a practice-based research network. I remember I was in my practice and I was recruiting patients for a patient safety study run by Martha Funabashi at CMCC. And in a course of 1 week, I was able to recruit 10 people to do the survey. And I remember at the end of that week, it's like, oh man, busted my butt. I only got like 10 people. And so our initial practice-based research network, we've got 16 clinics who've committed across the country, across 8 provinces. Some of you are on the call tonight. And I just thought, at that time, we got 16 people to commit. And again, I was thinking at the end of my practice day, tired at the end of the week, I'm like, wow, I got 10, 1 week. Imagine if we had 16 clinics, and they each had 10, right? In 1 week, that's like 160 participants. Like that's huge. You can't do that by yourself.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So the beauty of it is, we have residents we have to support to provide research projects. It's really hard to develop your own research project within within 2-3 years, right? From nothing. That's kind of more of like a PhD level where you have to create something from scratch. But the nice thing with the practice-based research network, we can collect lots of data and have a database. And when a resident comes in, we have data and they could jump in. The data's already been collected. Or if we have to go collect it, we have the infrastructure and the system in place. So hopefully this will make it easier for residents coming in and allow more people to be engaged in research. And don't kid ourselves. The RCCSS already is doing a lot of work, right? We're doing some good stuff. In Melissa Belchos' study, we part of the project, we did a lit search looking at sports chiropractic research conducted in the world, right? Within, I can't remember the exact time frame we chose, but when we looked at the data, Canada was pretty high up there. Like we were one of the highest producing countries for sports chiropractic research. And I think it's because of our fellowship program, right? Yeah. When we looked at it, it's all fellows who are producing this research. And you know what? There's not too many places out there who do sports chiropractic research. When we did our survey looking at research productivity, when we surveyed our CCSS members, about just over 7% said that they were involved in research in some capacity. Now that might seem low, but remember, a lot of us are clinicians first. Mm-hmm. To put things in perspective, when there was a similar survey that went out to the CCA, about 1.3% were involved in research. And we're at over 7%. So that's, and
we're part of that 1.3%.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. If it wasn't for us, it'd be like 0.9, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, Alex, thank you for everything that you've done.
But anyways, yeah, it's my goal is so this is one of the reasons why the practice-based research network was in my sights. As we were working on the Delphi project, people would say, oh, that's great. You'll be the first sports chiropractic research agenda, all that kind of stuff. And then then I thought like, well, crap, like when we get it done, what do you do after that, right?
Yeah,
You just
absolutely.
have this research agenda sitting there collecting dust. And so the question next is like, you know, how do you get it done, right? How do you get the work done? And yeah, you know what? Practice-based research network's the way to go. Actually, interesting enough, our Delphi study, 94% of our participants rated creating a practice-based research network as a high priority, 94%. So that's where, you know, our vision was to do this, and that's how we'll get the work done. And actually, what I envision is this practice-based research network. What I see this as is really it's a precursor to a research center.
Amazing. Yeah, that's. I hope we get there someday.
Oh, me too. You know, that's why I keep working at it. But I have to say, you know, when I work back and think about, you know, where we started and how we're progressing and where we're going, man, that $1,000 grant really was a kickstart. It was like the seed that let this build. And I don't know if we would have been here without it, right? Yeah. If you track it back, and it allowed us to build so much, and I don't know if we'd be here.
Yeah, it's great to have those little stepping stones, and then your ambition and goal to get us here as well. So thank you for everything that you've done so far, and where you're hoping to take us in the future. I think it's going to be a really great thing for the organization.
Well, thanks. But you know what? It's not just me. I've had quite the group of people who have really helped out, contributed, and really stepped up. And were stupid enough to let me coerce them, right? And joining on this trip, you know, just yeah, I just gotta give some credit to Brad Muir, you know, Scott Howitt, Chris DeGraw, Mosin Kazemi, Glenn Cashman, Melissa Belchos, Katie Zabo, David O. We didn't talk about David O. Evan Eindhoven. Hopefully I forget people, Ryan, Jen Thompson, and all these people who have who've really stepped up and contributed and been part of this whole, I guess, path that we've taken. And I think about in all these names, like we want to include as many people as we can in the research effort to really help out. And you know, before you cut me off, run out of time, I just would like to say this research plan and path of I call it you know, building the infrastructure and I guess the way forward for the research. Oh, Laura, I didn't even say. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Laura DeGraw. Yeah, she's helped out a lot. And anyways. This research path is one path, but I would also like to say, you know, Chris DeGraw, Scott Howitt have their own research plan on exercise as medicine. That's going to build with the Practice-Based Research Network as well. Same with Dr. Kazemi, and Cam Marshall's contributing a lot as well to concussion research. And that's going to build with the Practice-Based Research Network as well. And you know, this is pretty exciting, and I think having this infrastructure in place will pave way for a good future. And we want to work with as many people as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We're going to move on to Dr. Melissa Belchos, who is continuing on with some of this research that Alex was just talking about. So introducing Dr. Melissa Belchos, can you please tell us about your award-winning project, an international Delphi study to identify sports chiropractic global research priorities?
Yes, thanks so much. And also I have to say a huge thank you to Dr. Lee. As he mentioned, I started as a research assistant on the qualitative study and then have since gone on to the residency program and won this award now. And thanks to him as well for this project as well, because he allowed me to take on that project. So my project right now for the residency program, or my thesis project, is an international Delphi study. So we surveyed, or we are going to survey a list of leaders, researchers, and clinicians from around the world. And then with that, we'll be able to produce the first international sports chiropractic research agenda. The current chiropractic research agendas have not had much sports-specific research or sports chiropractic input into them. So that's where the gap in the literature was and where we decided to contribute. And those research agendas will help us identify some of the knowledge gaps that we have, prioritize the future research that's coming up, and also guide the allocation of critical resources. So like we mentioned, or like Dr. Lee mentioned, we've been working with FIX on this as well, and I've had a great committee of international researchers who have played a huge part in this project also. And in terms of the steps in the in my progress right now, we finished identifying all of our potential participants, and we have about 48 from all 3 categories, so around 150 in total. And then it's been very interesting to see where the sports chiropractors are in terms of, like Dr. Lee mentioned, it's very heavily weighted towards North America, especially Canada, for sport research, which was great to see. And a lot of previous residents and RCCSS fellows were on that list as well, which was great. And then in the next few weeks, we should actually be sending out our first round of the survey. So that will be coming out soon. And the foundation's financial contribution has allowed me to make this project the best that it can be. So I've had to purchase software as well as hire a research assistant. So it's made it a lot more efficient and manageable for me as well. So big thank you to the foundation for the RCCSS as well.
Great, thanks, Melissa. Next up, we have Dr. Trevor Vander Doelen, and he was a dual award winner for his research projects. So can you tell us about your project, the non-surgical treatment of patellar tendinopathy, a systematic review of randomized controlled trials?
Yep, thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for hosting this. So the goal of this research project was to determine what the best available evidence indicated for non-surgical treatment of patellar tendinopathy. And this was or is a very common injury in my practice. I work with a lot of basketball players, and I wanted to learn about what the best available evidence was to manage this as effectively as possible. So this systematic review was completed in 2018 and was published in the Journal of Science and Medicine in Sport in 2020. And I found a number of interventions to be effective for both short-term and long-term improvement with this condition. So not to get too detailed, but basically patellar tendinopathy will not respond to simply using passive modalities like soft tissue therapy, dry needling, shockwave treatment, or platelet-rich plasma, but rather responds more effectively to using these things in combination with specific loading programs of the tendon. So this includes new research that included isometric loading of the tendon, heavy slow resistance loading of the tendon, and then along with eccentric loading, which we're fairly familiar with already. So while this research was completed a couple of years ago, it did, however, lead to more recent original research in which I used a multimodal approach to treating these same basketball players, same group, with patellar tendinopathy with very good outcomes. So it led to some original research as well.
That's awesome. Thanks for that summary and kind of where you took that research. So you also won an award for your publication of the conservative management of Morel-Lavallee lesion, a case study. What were the outcomes of the study?
Yeah, so this is a case study in which a patient presented to my practice. It's a relatively rare traumatic condition. Usually it's only seen in MVAs. This particular athlete was a football player, and if you're not familiar, Morel-Lavallee lesion is an injury in which shearing forces cause tissue to separate. So in this case, skin separated from fascia, and pooling of blood occurred between the skin and the underlying fascia. So it was a lot of bruising and edema. And this case helped demonstrate how this condition can be managed from a sports chiropractic perspective, and with co-managing with a sports medicine physician. And that was recently published in the Journal of the Canadian Chiropractic Association Sports Edition in 2020.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So next we have Dale MacDonald. Dale was presented with the Award of Excellence by the RCCSS in 2020. So it's really nice to meet you. And why don't you tell us about some of the awesome work you're doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the chance to be on this call. It's great to see so many very enthusiastic faces from a research perspective. I'm not a big researcher, but I like to surround myself with people who are better at that than I could ever hope to be. Really, what I've been up to is sort of what I've always been up to, and that is trying to take a road a little bit different than what a lot of chiropractors, and particularly sports specialist chiropractors, have been doing. I don't worry too much about the Olympic side of things or the national sport organization side of things, as valuable as those are. I think I'm a little bit more of a capitalist than that. And over the last 15 years, I've been able to forge a relationship with Red Bull, of all people, of all companies. And it's given me the great opportunity to, travel around working with some of their athletes. And of course, knowing what action sports are like, these people get hurt a lot. So whether it be mountain biking or air races, supercross races, and ice cross and the like, it's been a great opportunity for me to get involved with these athletes. The big thing that I have coming up for 2 weeks in March is a thing called the Red Bull Mountains of Gold. And it's a project that they have on the backside of Revelstoke. They are actually setting up a Olympic freestyle ski and snowboard course. They're flying in their top 24 sponsored freestyle and skiers and snowboarders. And they have a training camp for the Olympics for 2 weeks. And so I get to go and hang out on the mountain, being their chair of medical services and trying to coordinate all the COVID stuff and basically, just keep everybody organized. It's a fun role. It keeps me a little bit out of the office, but thankfully, as you guys will meet in a minute, I have the opportunity to work with very talented people like Dr. Karmali, and I can place an awful lot of trust in him to kind of keep everything rolling. And Dr. Okranitz, who's also on this, there are 2 residents that I work with. And yeah, that's really the name of the game for me, is to surround myself with people who are excellent at what they do. It makes what I do a whole lot easier.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's always great to hear what everyone is up to and how we all kind of make our own path, but we all share the same passions at the same time. So.
I think it's one of the greatest parts about this profession is that, we come to it with a lot of training to begin with. And after having gone through the fellowship program, you have a lot more training. But from there, you have the ability to take it in almost any direction that you like. One of the things that I've liked about the external residency program is that I've long thought of it almost as a kind of like an MBA, in the sense that there's actually an equal amount of networking that is to be done as there is research and clinical skill improvement. There's a lot of networking that can be done throughout that program. And I think it really sets people up to go in whatever direction they wish throughout the rest of their career.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing what you're doing. And it was great to meet you.
Thank you.
So next we have Dr. Alexandre Deschamps, and he won his award for his research proposal titled Perceptual Cognitive Capacity as a Determinant of Clinical Recovery in Athletes Post-Concussion. Because of COVID, he changed the focus of his project to analyzing the test-retest reliability between 2 seasons of the IMPACT and NeuroTracker on a sample of university athletes. So can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, so thank you very much. As you may have guessed, I'm not an English speaking. First, I'm mostly speaking French, so excuse my accent. Yeah, my research is mostly about the concussion, which is a traumatic brain injury that alters cognitive and physical function. It affects a lot of athletes and mostly those participating in contact sports. So it's important because they will lose many time training and to sports participation, but also for their activity of daily living, and some of them will have some extended symptoms. So the goal of my research is to find better ways to diagnose and follow up the athletes when they have the concussion until they will go back to their sports. Actually, the recommendation that we have internationally are to use a variety of diagnostic tools, mostly symptoms, neurocognitive testing, balance, and motor function in a repeated measure. So I'm working mostly on the neurocognitive part of it with the NeuroTracker, which is a system developed in Montreal. It's aimed to evaluate the perceptual cognitive function of an athlete in an aspect that's transferable to sports. So it's pretty hard to describe without images, but you have 8 balls and you must be able to follow some targets among distractors. So because of COVID, we were not able to use it to follow up athletes following concussion because since October, athletes don't have the right to participate in contact sports in Quebec. But we were lucky enough to have data from the seasons of 2019 and 2020 from the NeuroTracker and also the IMPACT, which is a neurocognitive test used mostly in sports teams. And what we found pretty interesting with the early analysis is that we had a significant improvement in the performance for athletes using the NeuroTracker, which we did not see totally for the IMPACT because only 2 of the 5 scores from the IMPACT changed, and one was in positive way, the other in the negative one. So then we have to end the project with some fresh statistic to know if learning is part of it, and if we can use it to follow up athletes for 1, 2, or more years.
Great, thanks so much for sharing that. I know how hard it is to kind of try and communicate when you're not speaking in your first language, but you did a great job.
Yes, thank you.
So I think it's really important what you're doing, especially because the IMPACT test is so widely used, right? So it's definitely important information to have, and it's great that we have a sports chiropractor working on this, or a resident.
Thank you for the support with the grant also.
So next we have Dr. Arif Karmali, and he was also a dual award winner in 2020. So he won the Award of Excellence as well as the Jamie Laws Academic Achievement Award for his systematic review on instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization and a concussion paper. So can you tell us a bit about your projects?
Sure, yeah, thanks Melissa and Chris as well. I think this is probably the moment of this chat where I get to put you guys to sleep. With some of this that I'm going to talk about. But really the idea with this first project, the systematic review on IASTM, we were really looking to see what the efficacy is with IASTM on pain sensitivity. And so it was important for us to initially kind of determine a minimal clinically important difference and then really just zoom in on that and look at within group differences as opposed to between group differences. And I think that that's really what kind of shines a little bit better light on what each of those groups were doing in response to IASTM. And you know, the nice thing from there is we found that these different techniques, and usually they were grasped and that was being used, seemed to have a positive effect in pain sensitivity. So it was nice to see that as the outcome and using that within group assessment versus a between groups assessment. The second paper was on concussion. We were really looking at trying to better understand what junior hockey players understood about concussion as well as their attitudes and responses towards that. And so we used a validated tool called the Rosenbaum Concussion Knowledge and Attitude Survey, and really administered that across 3 junior A hockey teams across the country. And results from there were interesting, but unsurprisingly so. We found that the players all kind of had a decent understanding of concussion and the symptoms and things to look out for, but didn't really seem to have the safest attitudes. when it came to, excuse me, when it came to actually taking care of their own health, right? So they, one of the examples I remember in that survey was if it was the first game of the season and you had these particular symptoms, would you tell your coach? And they all said, generally all said, yeah, we would. But as soon as you flip the scenario and make it a playoff game and you raise the stakes, most of the guys said they wouldn't tell anyone. So we're not surprised by that, but I think the idea is to use a study like that to support some policy change towards educating athletes on not just understanding concussion better, but also understanding that they need to take care of themselves better as well, right? This is, it's as easy as looking at tearing an ACL, right? You do that, you can't go, right? You just can't go. So we have to look at concussion the same way. And if we can use this paper to sort of move the needle a little bit, and hopefully in efforts with some of the work that Dr. Cam Marshall's doing, that would be nice to see. And obviously, through all of this research, immensely grateful to the RCCSS and the foundation for their support and for the platform, of course. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my residency supervisor. Of course, we've got Dr. Dale MacDonald here for his guidance and support, as well as Drs. Kent Stuber and Glenn Cashman, as well as my co-author, Dr. Ali Walizada, for the support through this whole process.
Thank you, Arif, and thank you to all of the award winners. You all deserve a huge congratulations. It was great listening to your different research projects, and it's really great to see the work that's been going on across the organization. So congratulations, each and every one of you. Lastly, we have Dr. David Greif here, who is the interim president for the foundation of the Royal College of the Chiropractic Sports Sciences. We also owe a big thank you to the foundation for making these awards a possibility. Without you, there would be no opportunities to support our research. So here's the introduction of Dr. David Greif.
Thank you very much, Chris. And boy, it really is very heartwarming to see the quality of work that is coming out of the research community in the sports chiropractic world, and especially in Canada, where we seem to be the center of attention for this initiative. Just a quick recap on where the foundation came from. We were out at a West conference, actually. John DeFinney, this year's chiropractor of the year, in case you missed that, Rocco Guerrero, Gord Lawson, and myself. And we had a bit of an odyssey. I took them on a wild goose chase to find some good food. And we kind of bonded. And very soon after, Gord had the idea of taking the royal designation of the college a step further. And his next plan was to have a coat of arms, which we now have. And great thanks to Brad Muir for his incredible work on that. So that was the next step. And we didn't really know what Gord had in mind, but he had bigger things in mind than we realized. And so then the formation of the foundation, and he's still working actually on a royal patron for the foundation and for the college, which is, an incredible idea. And, it could just catapult this organization to international acclaim. In any case,
yeah.
So we developed the foundation and got charitable status, and and actually we added John Crawford as a board member and Susan Gillis as a board member. So it was basically the six of us at that point, and we all made significant contributions to seed the foundation. And I would like to call out Rocco Guerrero for his incredible generosity in leading the way with that. And at this point, we started listening, because that was, yes, we wanted to give back, but by the same token, we want to know what is the need. And so Alex Lee stepped up very quickly and gave us a real vision for where this could go. And we've had some very big visions for what this could be. The research center for sports science is something that would be kind of the next step after the practice-based research network, the research center. It would be the next step, but we have another step to go beyond that, if possible, and that would be an endowed chair position in sports research at CMCC. And these are certainly large goals, and we know that the research chair at CMCC currently has an endowment of $3.5 million. So we're certainly not, we're only one step on a very large Mayan temple when it comes to that. However, we are not shying away from that idea. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about the research awards for next year, and then I will just finish off with a little pitch. We have $8,000 available for next year in research awards. So all of the research awards that were given this year will be available again next year. We have a permanent John DeFinney Research Award. Let me just pull this up. So the Dr. John DeFinney Research Funding Grant. I'm not sure if we're going to continue with the Sharon Posen Research Funding Grant in that name, but it may very well. And then another research funding grant as yet not named. 2 outstanding paper awards. The Jamie Laws Academic Achievement Award, which I hope we will have some ongoing funding for that to make that a permanently funded award. And then 2 awards of excellence. So that's the same lineup as we had last year. And as I said, a maximum value of $8,000 is available for those awards. And that sounds great, but it's certainly not where we want to aim this foundation. We want to go much, much bigger than that. And so what I would say is, please expand your networks to see if you have people in your networks who would be interested in supporting the foundation. If you yourself can support the foundation, that would be great. We would really like to have impact in this area, and that's why we're doing it. That's the reason. We've expanded our board now. We have Sue DeWolf, Virginia Nasidim, and former RCCS president Greg Uchez is also on our foundation board now. So we're expanding the board, expanding the capacity to fund it ourselves. But to get where we want to go, we need lots of support. So if you have contacts, athletes, others who want to give testimonials, who want to contribute in some way, in kind or in money, this is what we're trying to do. And so I would really urge you to think about ways that we can support the foundation to produce the results that the very enthusiastic and ebullient Alex Lee has presented. Because, from great to great to great is where he's going with this, and we just are really happy to support it.
Thank you, Dr. Gryfe. Thank you for everyone who's been on here tonight. It's been a very inspiring night to see the work that everyone has put together and where we're working towards as an organization. This part's a little unscripted, but there are times where we are all separated, and maybe that inspiration goes away. And that's been one of the real bonuses for myself of doing this chat platform, is to see what other people within the organization are doing and kind of reignite that fire in myself. And I'm hoping that other people are feeling that same way tonight. So thank you for everyone who's speaking here tonight and also in the audience. I don't know if there's any audience questions or talk that wants to go back and forth between people, but we're definitely open for that. So if there is anyone else who would like to comment or question or say hello, now would be your chance. Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to close everything for this evening. So thank you to everyone. I did record this, so it's going to be posted on YouTube, and we're also potentially thinking about putting together some of these chats as a podcast. So have a great night, everyone. Look forward to seeing everyone in person the next time we can. Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Melissa.
Foundation.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.